All right. Good stuff, T. What's up, 007, Jonathan? Hey, Bo. Bruce, Lorna, Heather, Andrew. Aloha, aloha. Let me see. Let me find some. Okay, this is not doing it for me. Let's try some new background music. Okay, there we go. Much better. Yeah, so I think the story of the day with earnings was Tesla. And what's interesting is that, everybody's focusing on their cars, but, they're also really becoming an energy company. I think they're doing like 10, $11 billion a year in energy production. And that's going to jump by 2027. That'll be like $30 billion a year. Just one of the ways that they'll continue to explode. The thing about Tesla is that it's not, it's their cars, but the future of the world between now and 2032 to get us set up for the stratosphere is AI, robotics, and energy. And energy is solar and batteries. And guess what Tesla does? Solar. It's got the megawatt battery or the mega battery or mega pack, whatever it's called. And anyway, the idea that Tesla could be the first $10 trillion company in 10 years is not far fetched. That's awesome, Vincent. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, Tim, I ended up not going to the money show. I was scheduled to speak, so I always, hate that when it's like I have to cancel like that. But yeah, we had some stuff come up. But Danielle, Bruce, Mike Tito, Heather, they all went. They said it was really good. The Orlando show and the Vegas show are always, they're always pretty good. Yeah, so Tesla will be an interesting, it'll be an interesting. I mean, look, it's I've been working on the big picture update, which I need to do with you guys over the next week or so. But between now and 2032 is just going to be a pretty phenomenal time. All right, so if we're looking at the action today, just on the tick tools, 2-minute tick tools, you can see this afternoon, obviously a nice little pop there, both in the SPX and the NASDAQ. While I was at the gym, of course. And if we look at the 5-minute charts, and again, you'll get a little bit of different impression on those. Oops, it's not what I wanted, Windows. Thanks, no thanks for your help. Same thing, this when we're sitting here at H2 on the daily quant pivots, able to kind of push through that on the SPX, it's brought us right up to it. And I'm wondering, I don't know for sure, but let me double check on spot gamma if 6750 is going to be the level today. Yesterday was nice because 6700 was a level, and then we got that rally into like 6705. So being able to do the 352 trade was pretty easy. Okay, spot gamma, I just want to log in. And yeah, not a surprise. 6750 is already in play. So I'm likely going to do an iron fly right at 6750 right now. And of course, as we all know, that could change. And we expect some plus or minus action along the way. Man, that's some pretty weak ass premiums. I thought we'd see higher premiums, frankly. All right, that's fine. But what would be interesting is we got CPI tomorrow. It'd be interesting to do one for tomorrow as well. I mean, I can't imagine that the CPI, at this point is going to, catch anyone off guard. All right, I actually thought we might be able to do this a lot better. That's not the credit I was looking for. I thought we'd get something a little bit better than that. So I'm going to pass. If I could get that for 750, I would do it. To do that, I think we'd need a push up or down. So I'm going to, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to work an order for 775. And if I can get that, great. But what we would need for that to happen is we would need to drop and come back, or rally and come back. But if during that time we actually get that, I would totally be fine grabbing that. So hopefully that made sense. I don't know if I'm going to get filled on that one. And if I don't, that's fine. May not, oops. Yeah, and I do like the idea of Tesla for tomorrow too. Let me check on. I'm curious where Tesla. So call wall, of course, 500. That's a long ways away. Key gamma strikes at 440, and we are at 440. Hedge walls at 430. Put walls at 420. But all that could change tomorrow. Let's see where it is in the. If Tesla sells off into the close, we buy it. If it closes at the highs, we wait till tomorrow morning. Beyond volatility. Let me see what we got here. So everything will bid today. I mean, if we look at, everything. Bitcoin's up. Dollar's up a smidge. Gold and silver, a little bit of recovery. S&P's, NASDAQ, looking good. Crude oil up a smidge. Crude oil and grains actually doing pretty good. Interest rates spiking up a little bit today. So tomorrow we've got weekly expiration, and I'm definitely interested on some of these stocks and to see where they could potentially pin for tomorrow, i.e. flies, unbalanced flies, all the things. So let's take a look at some of those. And then from there, if we are just looking, NVIDIA, AVGO has a pretty solid squeeze setting up here. And I like this setup where, we've come down, we popped up, we got this huge cup and handle forming. We're at the snow line, we're at the 21, we've got a squeeze. We've been falling on lower volume. And it's kind of one of those, like, what's not to love kind of trades. So I like that one. Now the question is just, do we do something for tomorrow or something a little bit further out? And tomorrow you got the gamma strike and call wall at 350, which is kind of above where we are. That's kind of interesting. Okay. Well, what's interesting there then is that we could do a cheap trade and probably even an unbalanced butterfly around 350. So $5 wide, we may not get a credit. Now, keep in mind it's a 7-cent debit, but your risk is basically the width of the spread because this is unbalanced. And the way this works is that if AVGO falls, then all we lose is the debit paid because I'm doing it on the call side. But if it does blow through 355 and we take no action, you could lose basically the spread. So on 10 lots, this is going to be like a 5,000, 5,000. So now, obviously, in something like this, you don't need to let it go to max loss. You can take action. But if we wake up tomorrow morning and AVGO is up 10, there'll be a little bit of pain there. So I like this trade. I am going to take it. I'm just trying to see if there's anything here I'm missing. And then let me see what kind of market there is for it at this point. Because just because you want it doesn't mean they're going to give it to you at the price you want it. I'm doing a little price discovery here. Okay. I got it for 20 cents. So you can probably get better than that if you want to. And just beware, on an unbalanced butterfly, the risk is a lot bigger than a regular fly if it should have an explosive move up. Yeah, Jen, I just posted it there. So really for AVGO, I'm just looking to see if tomorrow we can get up to 350. And instead of, say, just buying a call, so let's say, like, okay, I'm going to buy the 345 calls. Well, they're $4. So if we go to 350, I make $1. The way this is constructed, I bought this for 20 cents. In a perfect world, we would pin at 350, but we know that the chances of that doing exactly what we want are slim. But we could buy this at 20 cents, and in a perfect world, you sell this for like $1, $1 to $2. You're not actually waiting for it to pin. And then if tomorrow if it falls to like 340, all we lose is 20 cents. But if it does push through 355, the risk gets a lot bigger, simply because your risk is the width of the spread. So we just gotta, we gotta be on top of it. You can totally do a regular butterfly. So if you wanted to do a regular butterfly, then your debit paid is going to be $1.22, and then that's your max risk either way. So you can totally do a regular butterfly too. I actually like that as well. And okay, let's see what else is cooking here. So that's AVGO. So I like that one. Let's look at. I got AMD looks good too. That might be a good one for tomorrow. Oracle, nice reversal there off of the 55 period moving average, but Oak Loaf going to find a little bit of support here at the 55 period moving average. Yeah, I like that one too, AB. Yeah, I like that one as well. All right, let's see what else we got cooking here. Wow, nice move in CRDO. Man, buying PLTR down there, I missed that one. I continue to like the setup quite a bit. Under Uber, we'll take a look at that one. PLTR at 185 looks interesting. But do we? Straight up 180 calls is a lot of premium. Curious what this looks like. That's an interesting one for tomorrow. I'd almost rather do the put side because the upside to me is hairier. So on the put side, you get a decent credit. And again, the idea here is that if it falls, you are, if it falls, it's bad. But if for some reason it rallies and blows through 190, you get to keep the credit. That's kind of interesting. If I'm reading that right. Uber is? Okay. Yeah, let me post. I'm going to post this one over. Okay, let me just copy this one real quick. All right, let me just grab this real quick. Yeah, so PLTR I like. I think for the purposes of a trade, just post this one real quick. Oops. All right, I'll just take a quick screenshot of that. All right, so for PLTR, this thing has been going back and forth. So I'm gonna place an order to buy a pullback on that one. But let's take a look at Uber. Like, there's no rush. Yeah, nice action there in Uber. Let's see. Okay, we looked at PLTR. Got over lunch. My oldest and I, we did a hard workout at the gym, and then got smoothies on the way home. Now I can feel myself digesting that while I'm sitting here. Let's see, Q's got all the indexes and squeezes. XLI is in a squeeze still. I'm just looking here. A lot of metals and mining have pulled back hard, obviously, with gold and silver. AVGO to me is probably one of the better looking semis. Got Intel earnings. Yeah, and it's like, will Intel earnings impact? Yeah, there's always going to be something that's on the horizon, right? And so the thing about if there's like an earnings play like that, that's in an adjacent stock that you're in, or if there's an economic report, as long as you're dialed in on your risk and your target and your stop, it's just those things just make it happen faster. So I look at those as a positive. It's something that God, Tesla just looks fantastic. Probably need to get some Tesla. Okay, let's look at ALAB 2. For Tesla, I'm just going to get something for next week. Like, I don't want to be too cute here. And if we go into, God, the at the monies are $15. That's a little rich. But that's also a sign that this thing is going to rip ass. So do we come down and get something? Thinking out loud. Expected move for next week is $30. It could happen. I think we go with 450, 490. The day before the Austin event. That's so nice. Okay, I do want to get that before the end of the day. I probably should just get it right now. I'm just going to go with a wide, just pretty wide here, like 40 points wide. I just want to have a little bit of offset. Okay. Curious what they're looking like for tomorrow. All right, let's see. Okay, so just looking at that one real quick. All right, let's dive back in here. All right, let's see what we got here. Index is kind of hanging out. So I'm going to set up definitely a trade here as we get into the close. I'm obviously not filled on the iron fly. I'll keep that working. So it's interesting with Uber and NVIDIA. So one thing I'm interested in, so I think we got like CPI tomorrow, right? Let me see what they're pricing it. Okay, I am tempted to iron fly that one. So a couple ways to iron fly it. If you're, of course, SPX. So we're just looking at the expected move. And the expected move for tomorrow is 47 points. It seems kind of low. Yeah, for Google, we've got a butterfly on it in small lot, just looking for a 250 pin. I was looking to see if we pin 250 tomorrow, and then next week we rally. So what I'd look to do is, get through tomorrow and then buy calls for next week. So I'm a little disappointed. I thought there'd be a lot more premium here. Let's look at 67.50. So it's not a lot of premium. I mean, disappointed is probably the wrong word. I was disappointed when the Longhorns lost to Florida State. That was a disappointment. 6,700. So, not the best risk reward there. So you get a $30 credit, 50 points wide. So that means, you got a 20-point face slam. And yeah, that's not the most attractive thing I've ever seen. Quantum stocks, well, I mean, look, the answer is going to be in the charts, right? Let's pick a chart, any chart. So, you know, they've already had their run up, right? And so it's great that there's there's a rally here, but I think that here you got the speculative phase, and now it's kind of like, when you start to get, I mean, look, today's action looks pretty good, but this also, this looks like a stock that's got some damage here. Yeah, tough call. Some of this stuff, remember, it rallies in anticipation of things like that. So you rally, and then when the news kind of comes out, the rally's already kind of done. So anyway, the moral of the story is I wouldn't really pay any attention to the news, and I would just look at the stock setup and say, well, you know what? Objectively, we came down to the fire line. We are getting a good bounce here on volume. This is a great close. I actually like this for tomorrow. That's for Tesla. Sorry. Let me. This is a great. It's a great bounce here. So, but remember, it's just that the news. I think stuff like this, it kind of already anticipates the news. We're seeing them rotate everything. Where to from here? That's a great question. And if we go through and we look at, let's just look at the sectors real quick. And remember, Mag 7 gets its share, and Mag 7's 30%, right, of the indexes. And if we look here, just kind of at key indexes here. Now, all the indexes here, like SPY, QQQ, they're all bullish with the squeeze. So first of all, that's the most important thing. And then if we even the mid cap 400 bullish with the squeeze, okay. But then if we go through and to say, okay, well, what are the sectors in there that look good? Okay, technology bullish with the squeeze. Okay, awesome. Semis bullish with the squeeze. So you can see money is flowing hard back into semis and tech. And if we look at ALAB, this is an interesting kind of a pattern that may be enough, to get some more action to the upside there. So okay, we'll come back and look at that. Let's look at XLF. Money was flowing into financials and has been kind of flowing out of financials and into tech. Healthcare, steady action into healthcare. Because nobody's lighting the hair on fire there. Industrials, kind of hanging out here. Nobody wants consumer staples here. Nobody's investing in toilet paper. Energy's been mostly quiet. It's got a little bit of a spike going on today. Materials, bounce back to the 55, dead cat, all the things. Metals and mining, of course, this got overclocked with gold and silver. So I personally think those need a break. Nothing goes straight up forever. XLC, kind of meh. So anyway, so you can see it's really, you had money for a little bit coming out of semis and out of tech for a little bit and kind of coming back pretty hard here. Now, that all being said, in terms of money flow, let's look at the big boys here. So you got Amazon. Look, great rallies here, but we're rallying to falling moving averages. So to me, that's just nothing too special. I mean, it's great for possible pins and stuff tomorrow. So that actually might be an interesting one. Apple here, fantastic. New all-time highs, drifting to the 8 EMA. Hold me back. That's fantastic. That looks great. Google, one of my favorite setups here. I'm looking for a pin at 250 tomorrow, but could we pin at 250 tomorrow, or is it going to rip? NVIDIA here is interesting. So you got this squeeze that's super negative here, but if we get this rotation and this momentum turns yellow, this thing could slingshot pretty hard. Let me look where NVIDIA call walls and all the things are for tomorrow. So you got the call wall at 190, the key gamma strike at 180. That to me is kind of basically a mess for tomorrow. The gamma strike tends to act more of a magnet, is what I've found. We already looked at Google, Microsoft. Again, weird kind of momentum squeeze here, but everything's starting to turn higher. Tesla, of course, back down to its tree line on earnings and bouncing hard off of that tree line. And I know Oracle's not part of it, but might as well be. Oracle getting a bounce off of that 55 EMA. Meta. Meta's always a weird one. It's actually an interesting one to trade on expiration. So you got the key gamma strike and the call wall at 750, and we're at 734. Okay, so what is the trade on that? Well, the trade on that is that tomorrow, I've done this trade quite a bit actually. Okay, so you got the gamma strike and the call wall is at 750. Now, right now, there's no money in it. And what I found, what tends to happen in this situation is that the next day, Meta will rally, will start strong and get to 750 and then to spend the rest of the day dying. And so the trade generally is to then, sell the 750 call credit spread. But what might be interesting is just owning some cheap calls overnight in case we do get kind of an initial bounce tomorrow, or at the very least, gosh, the hedge wall is at 715. Oh, slap. It's kind of an if-then trade if it gets up there. And then the other way to play it is okay, well, maybe, is there enough juice that this thing would try to rally there in the morning? And if so, is there kind of a cheap and wide butterfly we could do here just to flip out in the morning? $1.65. That's not bad. We're at 734. So I'm talking about here is that, okay, could this thing move let's call it 10, 15 points tomorrow early in the day? And then if so, is there a better trade to do? Probably a call debit spread, but that's going to be a little bit more expensive. 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Just thinking out loud. You could definitely buy mags for long-term stuff. Yeah, absolutely. So, and you'll see that it's the mags looks pretty good. I mean, I think that's a good one to stick in. That's the one you just buy, and I've not traded that one very much. Oh yeah, let me put it in the order for PLTR. And let's look at next week. And truly, I'm just looking to see if we can get up to 190. I'm almost thinking a butter, why not something cheap? Let's do that. A little different than the other one I posted. So that's a straight butterfly. I kind of like it. I kind of like that it's got something to work with there. Do I own any Mag 7 stocks long term? I own all of them long term, yes. So I do have an account that I don't trade in it. I only add to it. So it's um it's kind of like dollar cost averaging, and it's a lot of times it's just like a smattering of S&P 500 stocks and things like that too. If you guys have heard of the tax loss harvesting and things like that, you put money in, you buy S&P 500, and then the ones that are losing money you kind of sell, and then the ones that are making money you add to. And yeah, I don't have any bigger long-term swings on. So again, so three main accounts that I trade. Shorter term kind of income account, which is trading, right? We're like, hey, let's sell this put credit spread and buy it back tomorrow, or let's try to pin the SPX. And then kind of a swing trading, which is typically a couple of weeks, a little bit bigger positions. And then position trading, which is essentially, is to me, I just look at that as you're never selling. You're just kind of buying stuff and holding. I mean, if you think of like where we are right now in 2025, and then we look at 2032, is the S&P going to be at 6,500 or at 3,000, or like at 20,000? Yeah, I've got the odds at 20,000. Buying to hold. Well, Shepard, I want to, and Henry and I have had this conversation too, but there's definitely been times where, you sit there and you trade NVIDIA, right? It's like, oh, we traded NVIDIA. We caught 5 points in NVIDIA. And then you're just kind of like, well, if we had just, you buy NVIDIA and you just hold it, you can, like, wow, it's up 10x. That's just a lot different than trading. You're participating in a company's expanding valuation. That's the idea. Hold on just a second, guys. All right. Oh my God, Tesla, what a close. I think I need to add another position on Tesla for tomorrow. So we've got this for next week, but I think we could sell some premium like the 450 puts for mañana. Let me see if I can grab those. Okay. For Tesla, adding to it, this is a put credit spread that expires tomorrow. Are you worried at all about CPI affecting tomorrow's trades? So in trading, I was mentioning this earlier, there's always going to be something. So as long as you just get dialed into your risk and kind of your target and stop, when you have something like CPI, it just makes that happen quicker than normal. So does that make sense? So everybody's a little different around that. Some people like to well, I think I'm just going to wait and not trade through it. I've done both, and I've found that you just kind of, if you have the setup and stick to the plan, then, whatever report's coming out, it's going to just either make that, it's going to make the result typically happen quicker. Okay, so gosh, time flies when you're having fun. It's already 2:48. Okay, so let me bring up the 248. Where is my... Okay, so I think the 8-minute to close trade is going to be more on the bullish side today, it looks like, because we're selling off. Let me see if Trace is still the same. Yeah, I mean, 67.50. That's interesting. So we got a big strike at 67.50. That could go away at this next update, but that kind of implies that we could rally, back up there. And so that's interesting. So let's see what there's a cheap trade we could do here. I'm still working that order to get filled on that iron fly, and it may get filled here. Okay, I just got the iron fly, for better or for worse. I just got filled at 775. And nice. Now this thing's plummeting. Perfect. Let's see what happens here. It's pretty fascinating because on there must be a tweet. It's pretty fascinating because we got this huge gamma at 67.50. So think if we could actually get back up there. So I'm just going to throw on a cheap old 67.40, 67.45. Call debit spread here too. See if we can get a little bit of a bounce back. That's 85 cents, 90 cents. Shit, I better hurry. Arr. Fockers. Got to change my order. Oh, God. Okay, 110. I was trying to get it at 70 cents. All right, let's see what's cooking. So we sold off into the 252 time frame, and typically that means you might get a little bit of a bounce back into the close. So we shall see. A little bit of sell pressure there. You got 9. That's great. Yeah, and what's great about that is the risk reward is pretty small. Like if it doesn't work, okay, fine. But if it does work, the risk reward is fantastic. So pretty interesting. Pretty dead action. Is it? Oh, it's funny, Mill. Yeah, so the MOC came in, whacked it, and then once the MOC dries up, we'll see if we get a little bit of a bounce. Maybe, maybe. Oh, look at the NASDAQ. I mean, it's too late to do something on the NDX, but 25, the 25 100s with 6 minutes left are $6. What you got, SPX? You gonna tease us today? All right, we've got about a 5-minute plank here. See what this market can do into the close. It's interesting because you still got that big gamma strike sitting at 67. Oh, it just got dried up. Just got updated. Now you got nothing. Yeah, that was vapor. I mean, 6750 is still a nice round number, but when that goes away, it kind of takes away the magnet. All right, so what we got here? We got 4 minutes. Cuatro minutos. Tesla closing on its highs. Very nice. Yeah, that was totally gamma vapor. Well, let's see what the last few minutes has in store. I mean, if we got to 67.44, that would be decent, and cash settled there. That would work. We're not asking for much. Don't even need to get to 67.50. Oh, interesting. Nice. The last 2 minutes has been insane. Yeah, you'll see these 5 and 10 point moves. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what now we got to call it the vapor trade. Like how do we determine the vapor trade? Oh, nice, John. Yeah, let me know how you like it. That would be interesting. Yeah, a little heavy going. Got 2 minutes left. I mean, if we got a little 5 minute pop into the close, that would be nice. I mean, a 5 point pop into the close, but NASDAQ catching some bids here. We've got about a minute and a half left. Slow going. NASDAQ's been climbing here. It's climbed about 25 points from this. S&P's a little quieter. Yeah, I mean, we'll see definitely on tomorrow with Tesla. All right, we got about, yeah, so that 3 billion to sell. Um, Typically in the last 2 minutes, it's done. So then if there's any reaction, it's going to be in the last minute or so. NASDAQ continuing to climb on the right side. S&P's just struggling. Not able to get too much going here. 252 would have been better to sell the 67.35 at this point, unless we get like a 3 point run here in the last 30 seconds. Like, we're not asking for much. Empuje. 15 seconds. Somebody got a big bid coming in. Yeah. Andale, empuje. And the big fizzle. Not much. All right, 67.38. So not too exciting there. So SPX kind of fizzled there into the close. For tomorrow, we're kind of locked and loaded with Tesla and a couple of other ones. For Tesla, the main thing on the put credit spread for tomorrow is that, if we can get above 450, and then what else do we have? We picked up AVGO, all those. And so, yeah, so we'll see how that goes in the morning. I'll obviously be posting those in the morning. Oh, yeah. Also, too, just as a reminder, I can't believe this is already coming up. We are doing our first live event in like 2 years, and we still got a couple of seats left for that. That is coming up on November 7th. That will be live in Austin, Texas. This is the room that we're using there. And we're going to have Tom Sosnoff. He'll be at this event speaking, which is always great. If you've never heard Tom speak, it's always fun. And we're going to do Texas Hold'em. So day of live trading, we'll do some Texas Hold'em. And oh, look, yeah, I can see. Yeah, anyway, it's a lot of fun. It's a great event. If you've been trading for a while and you actually want to meet some other traders and stuff like that, it's a good way to go. Yeah, so for hotels, I don't know if we have any rooms left there, but there are. I'll show you on Google Maps where it is. There is. So it's at the AT&T Center next to the UT campus. So that's right here. And if you look at nearby hotels, you can, if we have any rooms left, you can stay there. So Hotel Ella, that's kind of a nice boutique hotel. It's not quite walking distance. That's probably half a mile. I don't know what this one is. I don't know. I've never been there. And then, yeah, the Hilton. There's the Hampton Inns, the Hilton Gardens right there. So you can see there's a lot of stuff right nearby. If you want something fancy, there's the Four Seasons. Oh yeah, the Marriott's awesome. That's a good point. Where is the Marriott here? Um, yeah, so the nicer hotels are a little bit, of course, a little bit down. You know, like by nicer, like if you're looking at more four-ish, four plus, um, Austin proper, W. Anyway, kind of anything. The JW Marriott is actually it's really solid and it's good location. Yeah, so unlike live is literally live in person, and what's nice about that is we can all hang out. Essentially like Henry and I and Sam and and Allison and there's a day and others that are there. We're literally just in front of the room trading or answering questions. But then we can also kind of walk around the room. We're going to look at your setups, look at your charts. There's going to be breaks. We'll be doing the Texas Hold'em tournament, and it is fun. Look, it's easier to trade at home on 6 monitors, but it's fun. And what I like about this too is it kind of forces you to like, okay, if I can only use a laptop, what am I going to drill down into? And it looks like, look, after we can do some group therapy. So that's sponsored. So we could do that. I always like when it matches up there. So yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun. And again, it's in Austin. Make a weekend of it. And then let's look at Intel. I think Intel's reporting today. So let's take a look at that. That's going to be a big one. And then, of course, we got CPI tomorrow, right? Warner Brothers launches formal auction for company sale. I'm sure Ellison's going to end up with that. I don't. Netflix should not buy them. Yeah, so nice action there. After hours, AVGO. They're all holding steady. Yeah, so Intel doing good. Yeah, one of the best books I've read is a long time ago, but it was Ted Turner and basically his autobiography and kind of the creation of CNN. I don't know if it's an autobiography or a biography, but it's such an amazing story. And then now you've seen CNN get bought and sold, 10 times since then. For real, Vincent, right? No, do not have LAC. That one we got a. How is that one doing right now? Yeah, that one. So that one we had it stopped out at $8.20, and I posted that as an exit. Might be worth another shot though here. Oops. All right, so Intel looks good there. What did ES do after the close? A little bit of a bounce. So on the 352 trade, the trade that I found that works the most consistent, and it would have worked here too, and I did not do it, was that wherever you are, so if it sells off into 352, you just kind of sell, well, you sell the put credit spread. So it could be the 635, 630. In that case, that would have worked. I probably would have done the 640, 635, and that would have probably scratched. On this case, I bought the 640, 645 call for cheap, thinking that we had a possibility of going back to 67.50, but giving that some cushion in case it did not, in fact, get back there. And it just kind of fizzled. Yeah, nice AB. Okay. Similar, 601. Put credit spread. Yeah, okay. I was going to ask. Yeah, I don't know if he still is or not, but yeah, I think he owned like 2 million acres. All right, well, good stuff, everybody. So for tomorrow, I'm not on the mic, but I'll be front and center because I've got some trades expiring tomorrow, and of course we got CPI, and so probably be a little active in the morning and making any adjustments if necessary or needed there, and then we'll kind of go from there. And I am working on the next big picture outlook, and we will find a day to do that, probably after the close one day next week. And then, yeah, and then we'll just kind of go from there. All right. All right. You guys and gals have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.